What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium spoiler-filled review of the new Netflix original movie, The Guilty. This film, of course, is directed by Antoine Fuqua. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming in next. If you like any of these videos, awesome, hit that like button, as well as commenting below any video that you watch, including this one. So, The Guilty is a new Netflix original movie. It's a pretty simple story of a character named Joe, who was played by Jake Gyllenhaal. He is an individual that has been downgraded to dispatch cop. He works the call desk, he answers calls, gets the police out where they need to be, but he has an anger issue and he doesn't seem to work well with the people around him. He's very forceful when he's on the phone. He doesn't really like what he's doing, but he has something that is not really truly explained until the very end of the movie why he's doing this. Well, in the process of his call dispatching, he gets a call from a woman named Emily, who's voiced by Riley Keough. And in the process of what's going on, she is kidnapped by who, we're not entirely sure. But the character of Joe has to figure out not only where she is, who she's being kidnapped by, but as the story unfolds, it becomes more and more apparent that there is something truly wrong here. And so with a story like this taking place in one location with one principal actor, and of course they dubbed over, other actors later on, these are the types of movies that I enjoy a lot because you can do a lot with a little in a lot of aspects. This is a film that came out of Denmark originally. It was picked up by Jake Gyllenhaal as a producer, as well as he became the actor of the movie. They brought in Antoine Fuqua, who's actually a pretty competent director in his own right, Training Day and stuff like that. And then they brought in Nick Pizzolatto to write the screenplay, which is awesome because, of course, he created True Detective. And on top of that, Netflix found the property worthwhile and they paid $30 million for it. So they must have seen something really cool about the property and project and whatnot. But what also makes these projects really cool, like similar like Buried and Locke and stuff like that, is they can be shot pretty easily, pretty cheaply, and pretty quickly in the right circumstances. For instance, Locke with Tom Hardy was in a car, Buried with Ryan Reynolds was in a coffin, and here they have probably a bigger set. They probably built the set for a couple $1 million or whatever, and they allow Jake Gyllenhaal to do what he does best, which is act against nothing. He's literally acting against nothing. He's acting against a couple of people in the dispatch station, but he's talking on a cell or on a phone or whatever, through the headset. I'm sure he's talking to no one because they probably dubbed the actors later on voice work. And I think it's one of Jake Gyllenhaal's best performances, to be fairly honest. If you can't tell already, I actually really love this movie. It's really tense. It's really taut. It's really heartbreaking how the story plays out. It's, the things that are revealed and how they play and how the script kind of makes its twists and turns are absolutely riveting. You're sitting on the edge of your seat through the entire film, not knowing where it's going to go. And having an actor like Jake Gyllenhaal, who's been around for, 30 years or whatever, just, completely just take on the screen and just kind of run with it. And the kind of stuff that he's having to deal with and how he's having to answer the calls and how angry he seems and, the revelations of why he's so angry and how he's trying to handle this situation. I'll see, because there's a forest fire, there seems to be no help to his credit. So he's having to go above and beyond the Call of Duty, which he shouldn't be doing. It reveals so much interesting kind of content, so much interesting ideas, and gives us like how stressful a job like this can be, how the system just doesn't truly work for people, and it's just a mental exercise of great filmmaking. And Antoine, like I say, Antoine Fuqua is just an amazing director. He just kind of, every shot is just closely up on Jake Gyllenhaal's character. There's not much, leeway around. We have like the other kind of call center people who aren't really important people, but they're just there to kind of, have set dress and stuff like that. They do have some roles to kind of keep him, Jake Gyllenhaal's character moving. But I have to give credit also to the voice cast of people like Peter Sarsgaard and Riley Keough, who play the two main kind of the victim and the kind of perpetrator. And then we have Christina Vidal, who plays a sergeant, who's getting tired of course, Jake Gyllenhaal's shtick that he's, having to constantly, seems like he's berating her and stuff like that. Then you have his friend, who's played by Ethan Hawke, who of course was in Training Day and stuff like that. And then you have Eli Goree, who's he has a kind of a big reason for why he's friends with, of course, Jake Gyllenhaal's character. But I just found the episode or the movie really fascinating. It's only an hour and 30 minutes, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. It gives you such dramatic tension and kind of just the plight and sadness of how these characters go and the story they go. And I absolutely loved it. I love the tense nature of it, and it made me feel, my heart beat quick for the whole entire movie, and that's pretty awesome. But that's where I'll leave it as non-spoiler. I do want to talk about some spoiler stuff, but I just want to talk about how this movie kind of plays out in a spoiler sense. So but with that said, if you don't want to know about any spoiler stuff, if you haven't seen the movie, and here, leave the comments below, all that good stuff. And if you do want to follow through, I will also put a timestamp at the bottom to kind of go where you need to go. So with that said, let's head into spoiler territory. So with that said, like I said, I really love this movie. I really love the concept. I love that we don't know anything about Joe at all, which is kind of amazing. We never really given enough information about him, which kind of makes you wonder, what exactly did he do to cause this downgrade of his career? Where did he go? What did he do? What problem did he cause? Why is everybody telling him to worry about tomorrow? It's never really fully explained until the very end of what exactly he's doing tomorrow. But what we see an angry man, we see a despondent man, we see a man who's had his children taken away from him, or his child taken away from him. We see a man who doesn't treat people very well, and we start to get pieces and kind of small moments about this character, and we start learning that this character did something really truly awful, and just how he treats like the sergeants and stuff like that he talks to, how he treats his friends. It was something really bad, and we'll get into it in a second. But what I love about this movie is once Emily and Henry and Rick and the two sergeants come into effect, this movie becomes a top-notch thriller in the aspect that it leads you into a scenario where you truly believe that Emily is in trouble, but we get to see kind of the nuts and bolts. Whether it's 100% correct, I can't fully explain, because I'm not a police officer, I'm not a dispatcher, so they will be able to explain if it's really if this kind of thing is how you would go step by step. But once the crew starts coming into effect, we watch a guy start to kind of unhinge in a lot of ways, because he's doing everything in his power to save this woman who is kidnapped by what we find out is her husband. We find out that the young girl Abby, who's the kid's daughter, and then we have their son who's named Oliver. We find out they've been left alone. We watch this character just kind of completely just do everything in his power to find not only the parents, but of course take care of the kids. We find out how difficult that is during a pandemic, and of course the forest fires that are going on in California. And then we learn on top of that the young boy of the parents of course Riley Keough's character and Peter Sarsgaard was injured severely. So we are given the conclusion, or we are given the idea that the father Henry is mentally unstable, and that he's kidnapped the mother and he's killed his young boy and stuff like that. And what I like about this story is Joe is doing things that are a little unscrupulous in a lot of ways, going a little above the law, like he shouldn't be doing. And the idea and concept of watching this character slowly kind of his views and worlds start changing as things happen, as he feels like he's lost control. We feel like that there's something that he's lost control on, which is really fascinating. And I like the kind of twist that this movie has, where we kind of truly learn about what exactly happened to this family. Joe's been trying to convince Emily to get out of the car, to beat her husband over with a brick. And he sends his friend Rick, or somebody of that nature, to Henry's house. And we get the revelation that Henry has paperwork for a psychiatry clinic, or a place where you send people that are unwell, unfortunately. And we find out that not only was Henry trying to take his wife to the psychiatric ward, but we learned that Emily was, of course, the one who stabbed or hurt her child, her young son. And that is a really fascinating twist, because you're led into this very hot thriller trying to save the person at the last minute. But what the reality is we have a man named Joe who believes one thing, and when his mind realizes what's going on, he realizes that everything is not what it should be, and what exactly happened to him, why he's going to wherever he's going in the morning. It makes a real impact on him. And we learn that Emily is not well, and thought she saw snakes, and that is a really interesting kind of concept to make an interesting twist. And I think that's one of Nick Pizzolatto's best his strengths in a lot of ways, is to make really interesting concepts and then kind of pull the rug under you, which I really like. But we see that she's unwell. Henry's trying to take her to psych ward, and she's going to jump off a bridge to kill herself, and of course Joe's trying to stop her, and they end up saving her and blah 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 to take her back to the psych ward to have her checked out. And this is where we learn that Joe is going to be going on trial, because he's also contacted by this lady from the Los Angeles Tribune or something like that he's going to be on trial, and he is going to the early stages of the trial. And we learn that basically he is being tried for the murder of a young boy. And what makes it so cool, I mean, it's not cool, it's a very disturbing thing to learn about, is we know why he has anger issues. We know the fact that this is who he is. His anger is a problem, and we know why his kid was taken away from him. We know now why a character like this is not really looked upon very nicely. His friend Rick was trying to help him get off by saying he's not guilty, but after this incident with his mother and realizing that he needs to lay fault for what he did, he's going to convince himself to be guilty. The movie's called The Guilty. He's guilty of murdering a kid that he was trying to lie about. And the whole idea of the mother lying to the police officer saying she was guilty, or she was the victim, finding out that's a whole lie, that she's kind of guilty in that aspect, that really plays off the Jake Gyllenhaal character, which I thought was really fascinating. But it's just a really cool kind of conceit. And then of course Jake Gyllenhaal admits he's going to be guilty, gets convicted, as we hear in the end, and that's the end of the movie. That's the hour and 30-minute movie. And I will not lie, I did not see that coming. I knew there was something truly off about a character like Joe. I knew there's something wrong about him, but I did not see the Emily stuff coming. I did not see the Henry stuff coming. The fact that these characters, like the Ethan Hawke character, are trying to help him. They're trying to explain to him, you just need to tell the audience, or tell the people that you're not guilty, and we'll work with you on it. And he just finally admits that he did something wrong, and he has to confess to it. And I think that's the kind of ending explains to the whole thing, is the story of Emily is like the story of Joe. They did something truly awful, and they need to atone to it. And that's really kind of an interesting kind of dichotomy, and an interesting kind of concept of having two characters be kind of mirrored in a lot of ways. And I thought that's a really interesting idea. And on top of that, it also deals with the nature of how insane, probably this movie is filmed in 2020, how insane 2020 was on a pure just insanity level, just pure heartbreaking level. The fact that that he's trying to get somebody to go over to the kid's house, and they're having to deal with the fire situation. It was a complete mess in 2020, and it really shows in this movie how difficult it is for one man trying to save a human being, how difficult it can be. So but with that said, I guess this did turn into a little bit of an ending explains. It's still a spoiler review. So with that said, that'll be my take on the whole film that is The Guilty, which is now streaming on Netflix. In the comments below, now that you know the spoilers, or if you've seen the movie, what was your overall thoughts in the movie? What was your overall thoughts on the twist of the movie? What did you think about how the story played out, the whole idea that it's just literally Joe in a room talking to people on the phone? What do you think of the whole entire concept? Well, otherwise, that'll do it. That'll be my take. And if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like any of these videos, awesome. Hit that like button, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.